Greetings once again. The other day I received an interesting email asking some questions about how I make some of the graphs from some of the results from the bots. And at first I thought that was actually a pretty straightforward question, but then I gave it a little bit more thought and realized actually there's a few different things I do. Sometimes the results out of the bots need to be put back in order because the bot may have been opened and closed multiple times and the results might have jumped a little bit out of order in some places, or maybe I want to see results from certain countries and not others, or certain tracks and not others, so maybe there's some filtering involved. Just a few little things like that. So I thought it might actually be worth a quick video to go through some of those things and see how they work. Now, for what I'm going to show you today, I'm using Microsoft Excel, but pretty much any spreadsheet software should be able to do pretty much the same thing, just the options will be in slightly different places or might be called slightly different things. So if you're using LibreOffice or Google Sheets, even Apple's inbuilt Numbers application, they all will be able to do this. They might just, as I say, have the options called slightly different things and be located in slightly different places, but they should all be able to do that. So let's go and have a look. Alrighty, so the first thing you'll need is an actual results file out of one of the bots. Now, on most installations, you'll find that the results are stored on your C drive in program files, in the Profit Sports Betting folder, and then in the folder relating to whichever bot you're using. You'll generally find there's an all results CSV file, which, as it says, contains all of the results. There should also be specific files for each tab. So if you only want the results out of a particular tab, you can grab it from there. It's usually easiest to just work with the All Results tab. If you want to do filtering based on tabs further on, you can actually do that based on this file, because one of the fields in here does include which tab the bet was placed in. So grab one of those, copy it to somewhere else, and work on it from there. Alternatively, you'll generally find that often these files are only saved when you close the bot. So if you don't want to close the bot, but you do want to work with results that you currently have in the bot, you'll generally find that on the Results tab, now this one's empty at the moment because I've just cleared and restarted it not long ago, but generally on the Results tab, you'll see all of your results, but you can hit the Export Results button, and that will create a CSV file wherever you choose to put it. So in this case, it will, by default, it wants to go into that program's folder, but you can put it wherever you want, call it whatever you want, and that will just hit save, and that will go where you want it to go. Then you can open it in a spreadsheet application. Okay, so the first thing you'll want to do is open whichever file it is in your spreadsheet program of choice. As I said, I'm using Excel for this, but anything that'll process a spreadsheet will do. Now, as it's a CSV file, which is just basically a text file with every value separated by a comma, it's not a file format native to the spreadsheet application. It can work with it, but if you try to save it, it may lose some of the data. So first thing I do is go and save the file as something else. So generally I just save as, and save it as the Excel workbook. Doesn't matter if it's the same name, that's fine. And then everything is in a tab down here. I generally rename that tab as original data, and then make a copy of that tab, and let's rename it to something else. Now, this way I'm not working on the original CSV file, so if something goes horribly wrong or I want to refer back to the original file, it's still there. I don't have to grab it again. Secondly, if I have the original data here in the spreadsheet, so if I want to go back to it, I can. I can change whatever I want in here in the tab I'm working on without affecting the original data at all. So if if I accidentally delete half of this or do something else silly with it, the original is still there for me to go back to. So here's our data. I'll just open up this tab a bit. The bots happen to store date in the US format, so month, then day, then year. Depending on how your version of Excel is set up, it's either going to interpret this correctly or it's going to make a really big mess of it. So you can see here, for example, this one it's from the 2nd of March. Excel is reading it the other way around because I'm using Australian UK date format. So Excel is reading that as being the 3rd of February. So it's treating it as a date, it's happy with it. This one here, as you can see, it's formatted it to be left aligned rather than right aligned. It hasn't treated that as being a date because as far as it's aware, there is no second day of the 29th month. So it's confused. So you can't really sort by date. If you could, that would probably make things a little bit simpler, but you can't. Now in this worksheet, the bot's sequence number is in this first column here. Generally that will be the case. Because I've opened the bot a couple times in this process, it's sorted the results out of order. You can see sequence number restarted here. So from here going up, you can see the dates go and the times go upwards. Down here though, the sequence number is sorted the other way around and everything's going downwards. So this is all out of order. I need to sort this back into order. I find the best column to do that is this one here, the one that's just a series of meaningless numbers. This is the Betfair Bet ID number. This is always a sequential number. It's an internal number from Betfair. So you can sort by this column and everything will go back into order. So if we don't really have to select the column. In fact, you're probably better off selecting all, so Control A or Command A if you're on a Mac. We sort and filters over here. So we can sort here, just do custom sort, and we need to know what column we're sorting by. So we're sorting by column F. And to make it simpler for this, we'll go smallest to largest, so that'll be the oldest bet will be at the top, the largest bet will be at the bottom. So we'll go OK. And now everything is in order. And we can tell that because the date column is now 29th of February here. The times are going the right way. Everything is now sorted correctly. Now, this does of course mean that this column here, column K, is our total column. It's not in order because the bot sorted that based on what it had internally at the time that we exported it. So it's we'll want to redo this column here. So we need to work out which column is which. This column here, column H, is our bet by bet results. So we won 25 cents here, won 25 cents here, lost 32 cents, lost $1.13, lost $3.02, won $4.72. So this is basically the column we need to get our data from. So let's use column M just to give it a bit of separation so we can see what we're doing. So for column M, for the first box, we just want to know what happened over here. So equals H1, enter. For the others, we want to start adding numbers together. So for this one, equals M1 plus H2, enter. 25 cents is 50 cents. Then we can take this little corner here and just drag that down. What that's going to do is effectively copy the formula that we've got in that box, but accommodate the movement. I'll show you what I mean by that in just a sec. So you can see here we've got a nice rolling total. Go back to the top here. So this one here, for example, was M1 plus H2 as we set it. Our next one is M2 plus H3. So we're taking that plus whatever happened in this bit. Next one, M3 plus H4. You get the idea. By dragging it, Excel is making the adjustment per line. So when we get down to the bottom here, we can see overall from this spreadsheet, total of 2725. So if we want to graph that, well, that's pretty simple. Take column M, insert, let's just make a line graph. Let's go with a simple line graph here. We have a simple line graph. We can format it as we want. Now, let's undo that. Suppose instead we want to see some details about which race we were graphing. So we'll, it's Control select on Windows, Command select on Mac to select multiple non-consecutive columns. And again, insert, and I'll go a line graph again. Excel should be able to work out which one is the values and which one's not. So we can see here, it's rather messy having all of these race names, and it's not going to have every race name because it can't fit them all on. But you might want to do something with that. But you can sort of see a bit more of a detail of which race you've selected there. Now let's suppose that all of this data is the other way around. So we've got the most recent at the top and the oldest at the bottom, which is the default sorting method for the bots. So I'm just going to resort this entire thing by column F again. Custom sort, we'll go column F, we'll go largest to smallest. This is what you'll generally get out of the bot by default. For the bot, the newest at the top, the oldest at the bottom. So if we want to just accept that as it is, not worry about having to move anything around, not having to sort anything, we can pretty much do what we did earlier, just in the reverse order. So this box here will be equals H180, here equals M180 plus H179. We'll just drag that one up to the top. If all of your data is in order to begin with, which as you can see this one, well, it looks like it was. It wasn't quite. We know it wasn't quite in order when we got it out of the bot based on what we saw earlier. But if all of your data is in order to begin with, you can just use the existing total column rather than building your own. But now that we've built it, let's graph it. See what happens. So if you're using the data out of the bot by default, your graph is going to be backwards. So how do we fix that without having to sort the entire spreadsheet? Well, right-click on your series. So right-click on the big line, Format Data Series. Wrong one. No, it's actually the bottom one. So where you've got the numbers going across at the bottom. Format Axis. There we go. Format Axis. And we have categories in reverse order. Tick that, and we're now facing the right way. I can never quite remember if it's this line or this line, but it's always your axis, not your data series. So you right-click on that, format axis, and then choose the categories in reverse order option, which will reverse the graph. And now you've got it the right way around. So you may want to do some other things with this. You might want to give the chart a title. You might want to, you might not want these numbers here. You can delete those. You might want to format this series as maybe it's supposed to be. Sorry, try that again. So you might want to do some other things with this chart. You might want to give it a title. Results from day 1 to 5, maybe. You might not want this line of meaningless numbers down here, so delete it. You might want to format this column here as being currency rather than anything else, in which case you'd actually need to format the cell in the spreadsheet. So let's make it currency. Okay. And suddenly you have dollar amounts here rather than just numbers. The other thing you might want to do is export this graph as a picture. You can do that. Right click on it, go save as picture, and you can tell it where you want it saved to. Alright, suppose you have a few different spreadsheets. You want a few different days worth, a few different spreadsheets worth of data, and you want to merge them. Well, you'd want to open them all. So we'll just open them all here. Should take a few moments. There we go. Okay, so they all open. What I'm going to do is open a new spreadsheet. Just make a new one. Okay. And then I'm going to grab all the data out of these. So first one here, I'm going to copy all of that out into book 2. The next one is this one. Copy all of that one, and I'll paste this down at the bottom. Right. Okay, so once again, I've got all of this now. Whether any of this is going to be in the right order or not, I really don't know. What I do know, though, is that we can easily sort it. Now, let's make life a little bit easier for ourselves here. Let's right-click on this first line here and insert. Gives us a new row above. So let's just expand this out as well. Double-clicking on any column on the edge of it will give you the full text if it's being hidden. So this would have been the bot's sequence ID. This here would be the date. This would be, by the looks of it, this is the race. So this would have been the dog that was chosen there. Betfair's bet ID, bet type, probably not relevant to this. Result. This here looks like it was the odds. The amount bet. You run cumulative total out of the bots. Well, I know that this column is meaningless because it's from the individual spreadsheets. It's not taking the whole thing into account, so I might actually just get rid of it. Don't need it. Now, why have I done this? This is going to make it just a little bit easier when we're using the sorting and filtering. So in this case, okay, so we select all. Now, firstly, yes, I'm going to sort this by bet ID because that way I'll know everything is in order. So let's custom sort. Now, when you've got headings, it makes it just a little bit easier to see what you're looking at. So bet ID, I want it smallest to largest, so the oldest stuff is first, the newest stuff is at the bottom. And there we go. Now, if I want, I can make a new total column and total it as we did earlier, but let's suppose I'm actually more interested in seeing what the results were from New Zealand. So again, let's select all, let's filter it. When you select the filtering option, you don't really have to select all to do it, but when you select filtering, suddenly you can filter based on details here. So if I only want to see the New Zealand races, for example, I can choose the option here for contains. And I know that New Zealand, all races from New Zealand will have that text in them. So I can sort it to just the ones that are New Zealand. Close that there. So I've now got it filtered to just New Zealand. Now, here we go. I can see that in New Zealand, if I just select the numbers from the results column, then Excel's quite useful in this way. It can tell me at the bottom here, there are 99 of those, and it can tell me that there was a profit there of $2.09. I don't have to go and make a new column for that. I can just see this straight off the bat. If I want to change this and see, well, what happened in Australia, let's change this to AUS. Let's go back to the top, and again, let's select results column. I expect there'll be a lot more from Australia than there were from New Zealand. So here, 1,376 bets, 28.54 loss. Not particularly good. In this case, I do know that I changed the settings a number of times in this, so this isn't a particular strategy. There's actually a combination of multiple strategies, and some bits worked well, some bits didn't. But I can see that there quite easily. Now, what if we want to do the UK? Well, that's slightly more difficult. The UK, well, not too difficult, but the UK doesn't actually list a country code, at least for greyhound racing. I think for the horse racing it's the same. So in that case, we want to not contain, we don't want it to contain the text AUS, and we don't want it to contain the text and does not contain New Zealand. So it doesn't contain either of those. And now we're left with just the UK races. So again, let's select all of those. 1,795 races, $33.15 lost. Okay. So that at least tells you some basic information. Okay, so I've gone back to the Australian data for a moment. Let's suppose I want to see how many of these races were winners at a glance. Now the numbers I'm going to get out of this aren't quite right because some of these races had 3 runners per race, others had 2 runners per race, so it's a bit of a mix of data, so it's not going to quite be right. But just for the sake of argument, let's assume that all of these races were 2 runners per race. So what we want is we want to sort by the result column. So we can do that quite simply by going to custom sort. You actually have to select everything first. Strange, I didn't think you had to, but okay, we'll do it. Custom sort. So we no longer want to sort by bet ID, we'll sort by results, smallest to largest, and give it a few moments to think about that because there's a fair bit of data for it to sort. Yep, so there we go. So everything is now sorted. So at the bottom of this, we have all the winners. At the top, we have all of the losses. So let's start. So let's just take account of how many we have in here in total. So as I said, we're assuming here that there were 2 runners per race. So selecting those, we can see there were 1,376 total selections. So 1,376 divided by 2, that's 688 races. So let's find where the numbers switch from being negative to positive. Just here. So we go from having minus 4 cents to having a 14-cent profit. And we'll just select the runners that have positive value for their result. And that looks like that's everything. So we can see we've selected 369 of those. So out of our 688, we had 369 winners. This is a quick calculation. That's 53.6% success rate. So suppose you wanted to see how you went on particular days. You're better off not using the date column. It's fairly useless because Excel is treating some of them as being actual dates and some not, and it throws its entire method of operation out the window. It's pretty much a useless column. You're better off using the market name because that will include information about the date and the time. Now, just to clarify that, the date that it's showing here is the date in the location where the event happened. The time is in your local time zone. So you can see here, this was the 1st of May, but it's listed as the 30th of April because it happened at 1:11 AM Australian Eastern Time, which would have been 4:11 in the afternoon in the UK on the 30th of April. But that can be useful in a way. You might want to see what happened on the 30th of May, for example. So let's go and 30th of April. Let's go and sort by the 30th of April, or filter rather by the 30th of April. So we want contains 30 APR. I don't know why that's removed everything. I'll undo that for a sec. I know why, because I didn't do it correctly. It's not contains 30 APR, it contains 30th APR. Oops, why has that done that? That's better. Now we're looking at just the data from the 30th of April. So that's a little look at how I make some graphs out of the data out of the bots, and how I sort the data so that it's in the correct order, and how I filter some of the data if I want information out of a particular day or a particular venue. A particular country. You could certainly filter it down to a particular set of venues if you wanted to see specific tracks, how they've performed compared to others. You could do that as well. There's plenty you could do. As I say, I've been showing you in Excel. Some software is going to look a little bit different. The results, the options rather, might be called slightly different things, but you should be able to find roughly the same options, just called different things and put in different places. Even one version of Microsoft Excel to another will put some of the options in different places, which is fun trying to find them all again. But hopefully that's of some use to you.